Hello, my name is John Liu, and this is my submission for the 6-week Smart Contract Hackathon. Everyone recognizes that the real estate market is an immense one, but besides the financial aspect, it can also be very personal, particularly as it relates to private home ownership. And the road to purchasing a home can be very stressful, and it's marked by many mileposts. For the scope of this particular project, we limited it to it starting with the homeowner signing a listing agreement with a realtor and then ending with a fully executed contract between buyer and seller. In Florida, the FARBAR rules, it's a form that's been approved by the Florida Realtors and the Florida Bar, and is involved in, I would say, probably over 99% of all residential real estate transactions. One of the issues, though, is that as offers and counteroffers are floating back and forth that are each initialed by the parties, and then the realtors are serving as gateways, you have to maintain different versions of these and keep them straight, and it's just not very efficient. Other concerns are raised as well that relate to issues like trust, transparency, and self-interest, with sellers often asking themselves, am I receiving every offer that my agent receives? Or some slipping through the cracks, and reasons can be benign for that, or they can be a little more sinister. And on the other side of the fence, buyers are often thinking the same thing: is the seller seeing my offer? But bigger picture, there is something here that is much larger in scale, which is maintaining the integrity of the agent-principal relationship, particularly as it relates to multi-party transactions. So this extends to many domains other than real estate, such as finance, insurance, healthcare, even sports and entertainment agencies. Daml seeks to solve that issue in conjunction with the concept of the blockchain ledger by leveraging the immutability and transparency of the blockchain ledger, but also the privacy rights that can be established with Daml, which is very different from many of the other tools and technologies that are available. So let's go ahead and see a demo. And before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and close this PowerPoint slideshow to free up some processing power. And so here we have my main.daml file open in VS Code that contains all my templates and all the choices that can be exercised on contracts created with those templates, including one for establishing agency between the seller and the seller's agent, preparing a listing, preparing offers, counteroffers, etc. And at the end of the day, we were going to wind up with 4 contracts: 2 for the agencies that are created, and then 1 for the listing and 1 for the final executed contract. Along the way, there are many archived contracts, but those aren't the ones we're worried about right now. So let's go ahead and go over to our front end, which, as you can see here, is created using React. And here we go. All right, so similar to the skeleton, we have 4 parties already pre-populated. So let's say we have Carol, who's a buyer's agent, and Carol knows that Bob is looking for a new home, and so she's going to go ahead and propose using that particular initiate and accept model, propose that Bob become a client. And so the React component will automatically update this on the screen, and we see that it's now pending. And then Bob will go ahead and log in and see that he now has a new pending contract, and he will go ahead and accept that, thereby engaging Carol. Similarly, David, who's the seller's agent in this use case, goes ahead and knows that Alice is looking to sell a home, and so Alice is a seller. We'll just type in an address here for the property, and we'll submit this. And similar to Bob's situation, we see this as pending, and we log out and we log back in as Alice, and Alice can accept that as well. Now, one of the things that Bob can do is, once that's been accepted, David can do once that's accepted, is David can go ahead and exercise a choice to go ahead and list the property for sale based on the agency relationship that's created. So we'll just type this back in because parties aren't always clients, and you got spouses and whatnot. And then we'll retype in the address that now has been verified, and we'll just say that this is in Orlando, and I think that's a good zip code, county, Orange. And we'll just give it a parcel ID number in lot 1 Mickey subdivision. All right, and then this mimics the FARBAR form, missing just a couple of fields, I believe, in terms of, well, this is really a listing. It's missing a lot of forms, missing a lot of fields, but it gets it ready. This information will be used when the FARBAR is eventually generated. It'll pre-populate. So let's go ahead and pick a price that harkens. It takes me back to the day of my parents' first home, which we'll never see again. But $25,000. That sounds like a pretty good deal, depending on the house, I guess. But now we see that this is pending sign off, and Alice can now sign in. See this. Now, I don't have the entire listing showing, but we have this table for this particular phase and this scope of this project. She's going to go ahead and sign off on this. And now we see that it's active and all public listings, it's all showing for the world to see. So Carol now logs in, and Carol will know that Bob wants to make an offer on this property, so she's going to go ahead and prepare an offer based on the listing agreement. So we'll auto-populate all this information from the listing, and because I'm recording, things are going a little slower, so we're going to go ahead and select Bob, which is very important because Alice is relying on the contract ID of the agency relationship between her and Bob in order to exercise this choice. So Bob is a cheapskate, however, and he says, you know, I'm just going to offer $14,000, and I'm going to, let's see, zero deposit and $14,000 to close. Well, that's a really bad offer. Okay, so I have to execute it pretty quickly, accept it, and then we'll close, the end of next month. All right, so now this offer is created, but it also is pending sign off by Bob, the buyer. So Bob logs in. Bob now sees this transparency of all this. Okay, I see what's going on, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off on this offer. And as soon as Bob does, it's now tendered. It goes straight to the seller. So if we go to Alice, Alice will see this and say, oh, you know what? I see this offer is received $14,000. Well, I could reject it. I could accept it, but I think I'll just make a counter offer. So she now has a counter pending. One of the nice things is if Bob logs in, Bob will see that a counter is on its way. So if he was waiting to make an offer on a second property, he knows something's coming and is not kind of in a holding pattern, held hostage waiting for a counter offer or a rejection, really. So now it is up to David to go ahead and prepare, because that's what realtors do, prepare the actual counter offer itself, and it will pre-populate all the information from the original offer. And once it does that, we can go ahead and modify some of those terms that weren't really very good. So we say, well, I can't really take 14, but I'll take 24 instead. And I do want you to put $2,000 as an earnest money deposit, and then you can close with $22,000 at the end of the day. And our use case is a cash transaction. There's no financing involved. So we're going to go ahead and submit this. Now, it's prepared, but it still has to be approved by Alice. Note that the offer is still floating out there, and the other parties don't get to see this counteroffer yet because it has been approved, and that's what Daml allows you to do. So we log out, and now we log back in as Alice, who has to approve that counteroffer. And there it is, and it says, okay, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and approve it. And notice what happens. The original offer gets archived because it no longer matters. We log out. Bob logs back in and sees, oh, look, I received the counteroffer. And Bob can counter or can accept or can reject. And we can keep this cycle going back and forth between offer and counteroffer, each contract replacing the other in the blockchain. But for the purposes here of keeping this short, we're just going to go ahead and say, you know what, it's accepted. And now we see we have a fully executed contract that all the parties can see. So if we just go back to Alice, Alice now sees this. At any rate, so hopefully this demonstrates the power that smart contract that mimics workflow can accomplish, particularly when it uses tools like Daml. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.